everybody, today we're going to talk about the different visa types that you can apply for if you're an offshore applicant looking to come to work and live in Australia. So this is specifically for people who are living outside of Australia at the moment. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tracy Chen and I'm the Principal Lawyer at Mason Chen Law Group. Anyways, before I jump into the video, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this video with people who need it. I know that a lot of people here in Australia or overseas may have family members that are looking to migrate to Australia. So just remember, the visas I'm going to talk about today are specifically for people who want to come and basically live and work in Australia. Now, the skilled migration program or the employer sponsorship program in Australia is very much based on the occupations and the demand at the time. That's why you hear people say things like, oh, the occupation list changed again. And although it has changed a couple of times since I've been in this industry, I don't think it changes all the time. It's just more so there's a different demand for certain occupations. Different states have different demands as well. So I don't think it's like specifically completely changed and there's a whole revamp of it. But I won't go into too much detail. I'll leave that for another video. So first of all, if you have an occupation on the relevant occupation list for employer sponsorship, definitely go for that. Because employer sponsorship is quick, it's reliable, and you can basically plan around it. However, not all occupations are available on the list, so you have to jump to the occupation list and see if your occupation is actually on there. I'll drop a link below for you guys to see as well. The only thing about this is you do need an employer to sponsor you. So whether it's for the temporary skills shortage visa subclass 482 or the employer nominated scheme 186 visa, basically direct entry, you need an employer to nominate you for that position. Only then can you apply for the visa. Now, in saying that, a lot of people ask me, how do I find an employer to sponsor you? There are certain industries that do it more than others. However, I can guarantee you there are a lot of Australian companies that do sponsor overseas workers. I mean, some migration firms, some migration practices purely focus on employer-sponsored visas. And I've worked in those firms before. They didn't do any, partner visas, general skill migration, just employer-sponsored visas, and they had big teams focusing on that. So as you can see, there are a lot of employers that sponsor. I guess, how do you reach out to these employers and find this opportunity? I think you should definitely look to recruiters as the first point of contact. There are a lot of recruiters out on LinkedIn and other platforms looking for candidates to fill these positions for the Australian businesses. So I know that there are recruiters that work specifically for hospitality businesses, ones in banking, in trade even. Overall, there's just a huge skill shortage in Australia. So you've just got to look around for the right employer. And I know people say, oh, it's quite difficult. But to me, I think it's just like, as hard as it can be and competitive as it can be to find a job. You just got to find the right one and look in the right place. But I can guarantee you the opportunities are definitely there. Now, to be able to qualify for any of these visas, you must have, the relevant qualifications and the right amount of work experience. You have to have the work experience. Otherwise, why would the employer sponsor you to come to Australia to work? It's just like any job. Any job, you might look at the bottom of the job ad and it'll say, minimum 2 years work experience or whatever it is. I mean, right now we've got jobs going around for migration lawyer position and we're looking for people with at least 5 years work experience, and it is not easy. And migration law is a little bit different. It is an industry that is in Australia. So we are looking to hire people onshore. However, I know a lot of hospitality businesses, restaurants, trade businesses, they are looking for overseas workers. So yeah, you can reach out to these recruiters. Other option would be to apply directly through Seek. I actually am doing a couple of these applications and I was looking at the documentation and the notes, and it said this chef from the Philippines, and I was looking at where he applied for. He actually applied through Seek. And when the business owner, the restaurateur, looked at his CV, he thought, this is the right guy and I want to sponsor him. And I'm sure there were onshore applicants as well, but he chose to hire the offshore applicant. So definitely go for that. So that's employer sponsorship. If you want to find out a little bit more in detail about employer sponsorship, I've actually done videos for this. I'll leave the link below to these videos. You can find out more in detail about what the requirements are. Again, there's qualification requirements, there's work experience requirements, there's English requirements, and obviously you have to meet the health and character checks. Second of all, we have the skilled visa, which is also known as general skilled migration. Now, although there's quite a few different types of these visas, in this video, I am referring to the 491, 190 and 189 essentially. Now, to be honest, I have not seen a 189 invitation for a while for an offshore client, so I won't talk too much about that today. But basically, to apply for any of these visas, you first need to express your interest to be invited to apply for the visa. Now, the 491, if you are invited for that visa, it is a temporary visa, a 5-year temporary visa. You'll be able to come to live and work in regional Australia. Now, the requirements of that visa is that if you continue to live and work in regional Australia for the next 3 years, even though it's a 5-year visa, technically after 3 years, you meet the requirements, you meet the income requirement, you can apply for permanent residency, which is the 191 visa. The other visa I'll be talking about is the 190 visa. It's called the skilled nominated visa. Again, different occupation list and different requirements. However, that is direct permanent residency. And although I know it sounds really good, it's obviously a little bit harder to get. I mean, you're getting direct permanent residency. Of course, it's going to be competitive and the requirements are going to be higher. The first step for this would be you need to apply for an expression of interest. There's all these requirements to be able to actually submit an expression of interest. And I've talked about this in detail in other videos, but basically you need a minimum of competent English, which is 6 in each band for IELTS. You need a valid skills assessment for the occupation on the occupation list, and you need to have the right points for it. The minimum points to be invited is 65. I have seen some invitations for offshore applicants at 65, but don't use that as a benchmark. It is highly competitive. You need a lot more points to actually apply. So once you've actually completed your expression of interest, you'll see that you actually have to pick a state where you want to migrate to. And then you may have to make another application depending on the requirements of the actual state. And I'll talk a little bit about, some of the more popular ones and the ones that I've seen that have actually invited applicants from offshore.